Council that is here on the home of Black Talk Media. It is WURD. We are live at 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. We are awaiting the Philadelphia City Council. As you can see, the actual physical presence of the Philadelphia City Council, if you're watching us on WURD TV, is empty. The building is empty because we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So as a result, Philadelphia City Council is officially still meeting, but meeting virtually. And so as you can see behind me, that's just, a photo of the inside of the Philadelphia City Council chambers if you're watching me here on WURD TV. But that's just to let you know, just to show you, how elegant it is inside the Philadelphia City Council chambers. Definitely, it is one of those nice legislative chambers to behold if you ever get a chance to see the inside of it, which I'm sure we all will at some point in the near future once the pandemic is over. But they are expected to meet via Microsoft Teams. That's Microsoft Teams, not Zoom. So you got like several different virtual meeting platforms, Microsoft Teams being one of them, and that is the virtual platform of choice for the Philadelphia City Council. So we're just awaiting them. We should hear Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clarke's voice shortly. In the meantime, we'll just go ahead and open up the phone lines, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Philadelphia City Council Live. I'm Charles Ellison, by the way. I'm your anchor for Philadelphia City Council. I am also a host, executive producer, and creator of Reality Check. If you're just now tuning in for the first time ever, and you're wondering, okay, what is City Council Live? And also, what is Reality Check? What is he talking about? That's your daily dose of public affairs, politics, public policy here on WURD. So once again, we are on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app, and once again, just waiting for the Philadelphia City Council Live. Philadelphia City Council is on. You should be hearing Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clarke's voice right now.
Beginning of every remote council session. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present or whatever you may choose to say to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning. I am present. Looking forward to today's council session.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom.
Morning, Council President, colleagues, and the Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the public present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, members of Council. Good morning, City of Brotherly Love and Sisterly Effectiveness.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gibb.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Calling for justice for all the families who have lost loved ones to gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Never mind.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public.
Good morning, Council.
Council President Clark.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. President. I just want to make sure that I'm on the record as being present.
Thank you, Councilman. I think we still have Councilwoman Brooks. Councilwoman Brooks get on yet? Thank you. Okay, thank you. We've established a quorum, so we're now going to come to order. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Pastor Jason Ferris of the Old Pine Community Church. He is here today as the guest of Councilman Squilla. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation. Pastor, please proceed.
Thank you. Let us pray. God of all creation, we thank you for the sunshine this week and the melting of all the snow. We thank you for the spirit of life that infuses all things and for the grace that appears even when we have done nothing to earn it. As we prepare our hearts and minds for today's meeting, we lift up the prayer of St. Augustine, that in those things that are essential, we have unity. In those things that are not essential, we have liberty. And in all things, we have charity. May your spirit touch the heart of each person on this call, giving them the courage to seek truth and the grace to speak it with charity. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for those inspiring and spiritual words. We really appreciate you being here today.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yep.
And our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 25th, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 25th, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably seconded. The meeting of the journal on Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Stand approved. All in favor will indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
And our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the Councilwoman. And our next order of business is communications. And I would ask the clerk please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on March 1, 2021, I signed the following bills which were passed by council at its session on February 18, 2021. Bill numbers 200656, 210004, and 210006.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. Just by way of a reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for our next session of council unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. I would thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, will you please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by our members?
Councilwoman Parker offers 3 bills and 3 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and the Commissioner of Procurement on behalf of the city to enter into a multi-year concession agreement with German American Marketing Incorporated, doing business as Christmas Village in Philadelphia, for the operation and management of the seasonal Christmas Village for the city of Philadelphia at Love Park and other potential city-owned areas.
They will be referred to the appropriate committee.
On her own behalf, Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Frontenac Street from Levick Street to Devereaux Avenue.
For the committee.
And an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on Hammond Avenue between East Nedrow Avenue and Crescentville Road.
For the committee.
And a resolution congratulating Bernard W. Smalley for being named president of the board of directors of city trusts, making him the first black president in the board's 151-year history.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution remembering Henrietta Lacks and honoring her contribution to modern medicine, including the development of COVID-19 vaccines.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution commending and recognizing Michael Hand on the occasion of his retirement from his outstanding career with the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters and his service to the Philadelphia community.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers two resolutions, entitled a resolution recognizing and supporting the accomplishments of women and girls throughout history on the occasion of Women's History Month.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing the Women's March on Philadelphia during Women's History Month 2021 and the organizers who hosted 4 consecutive marches from 2017 to 2020.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers one bill and one resolution entitled an ordinance amending Section 9213 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Farmers Markets by adding a permissible location.
For the committee.
And a resolution also naming the 2200 block of North Salford as G.O.L. Myers Way in honor of George Linwood Myers III to commemorate his legacy and longtime dedication to various Philadelphia organizations and as an advocate of vulnerable populations.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers two resolutions, entitled a resolution recognizing Rochelle Shelley Cameron on the occasion of her appointment as chair of the U.S. Policy Council for Airports Council International.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution urging the U.S. Congress to pass Senate Bill 475 and House Resolution 1320, which designate Juneteenth as a national holiday.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers one resolution entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee on Finance to hold hearings regarding the potential of land value taxation in and for Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar. Oh, I'm sorry, that's this week's calendar.
And Councilwoman Brooks offers one resolution entitled a resolution calling on the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States to offer long-term loans with terms of up to 30 years to meet the borrowing needs of state and local governments and government units in the United States without charging any interest or fees.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers one resolution entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings examining best practices and new ideas for safely reopening the City of Philadelphia's workspaces, including office buildings, city buildings, and other high-risk congregate settings not currently operating at pre-pandemic capacity.
Today's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers two resolutions entitled a resolution honoring the athletes of the class of 2020 for their incomplete seasons and shortened high school athletic career due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold hearings on a recently revealed memo from a Philadelphia Police Department captain instructing his officers to increase pedestrian and motor vehicle stops not related to crime and jeopardizing data collection mandated by federal consent decree.
Mr. Decker, was that for committee or?
It was, Mr. President.
Today's calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers two bills and two resolutions entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Greenwood Street and 2nd Street, Reed Street and South 4th Street, Moyamensing Avenue and Wharton Street.
For the committee.
And an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Morris Street and South 2nd Street.
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 538 Dudley, 639 Cantrell Street, 2842 through 44, and 2846 Tulip Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution in honor of Women's History Month. We take this opportunity to renew and recognize March 10th as Harriet Tubman Day in the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers four resolutions. Entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to obtain an update on the status of the city's plan to ensure all parks or playgrounds owned or controlled by the City of Philadelphia are inclusive, intergenerational, and accessible for all disabilities and special needs.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to obtain an update on the status of the City Council's security camera program for Philadelphia's playgrounds and recreation centers.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing March 8, 2021 as International Women's Day to raise awareness of the adverse oppression and inequities that women have experienced and to continue to experience globally, and to celebrate the achievements of women around the world and campaign for positive change.
That'll be in next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Committees on Commerce and Economic Development and Public Health and Human Services to conduct a joint hearing to review the past and current guidance for restaurant capacity and, if needed, make recommendations to the Philadelphia Health Department to either change current restaurant capacity requirements or recommend future restaurant capacity requirements.
This week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports on committee.
Council President Clark?
Yeah.
Information. My one resolution for March 10th was wondering if we could suspend the rules to have that heard at this week's council session.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor for rule suspension and allow reading this week's session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That will be on this week's calendar.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. With rule suspension.
Mr. President, for clarity, this is the resolution in honor of Women's History Month to recognize March 10th as Harriet Tubman Day.
Correct.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is reports from committees. The chair is going to recognize Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Public Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Health and Human Services reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Public Health and Human Services, to which is referred Bill Number 210122, entitled An Ordinance Amending Section 94116 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Public Health Emergency Leave, to establish leave time for public health emergencies and modify existing provisions concerning the paid sick leave and make technical changes. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading of this day of Bill Number 210122.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210122. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
And this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports on committee, and our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bill just reported from the committee with suspension of the rules has been deemed to have had a first reading, and this bill will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. There are no additional bills on the first reading calendar today, so the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210010, 210161, 210162, 210163, 210164, 210165, 210166, 210167, 210168, 210170, 210171, 210172, 210173, 210174, 210-175, 210-085, 210-077, 210-120, 210-121, 210-073, 210-080, and 210-082. All other resolutions and bills are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you. I think Councilwoman Brooks, for the record, Councilwoman Brooks, are you now?
Yes, Council President.
Okay, just let the record reflect that Councilwoman Brooks is present. Thank you. Before we proceed with the consideration of our public comment, we'll take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals some time to connect the speakers that we have for today's meeting. We'll take a brief recess. Thank you.
Okay, you've been listening to the Philadelphia City Council. They are taking a break at the moment to prepare for public comment. So let's see how many people are stepping up to the plate and providing public comment and taking advantage of the opportunity to let their voice be heard directly before the Philadelphia City Council. Public comment period before the Philadelphia City Council is one of a number of opportunities to directly engage with the Philadelphia City Council. You can, by the Wednesday of every week, the Wednesday before a City Council session, you can, if you are a member of the public or you are an advocate, you have some concerns regarding legislation that the Philadelphia City Council is introducing a committee, is preparing or planning to introduce before the Committee of the Whole, you have an opportunity to provide 3 minutes worth of comment or 3 minutes worth of testimony. It's a very important function of the City Council, and you can talk about those bills before the City Council. It's not the only opportunity to engage City Council, but it is indeed a very important opportunity, and you can also have your voice heard before the public on platforms like WURD when we have City Council Live. So always go each week to phlcouncil.com or every day and try to do that by 3 p.m. on the Wednesday before a full City Council session. Go to phlcouncil.com, put your mouse over the button, the bar button at the top of the Philadelphia City Council page. It'll say Legislation and Hearings. When you put your mouse over that button, then a drop-down menu will appear, and you will see offering public comment at council stated meetings. You want to click on that, and you get instructions for how to sign up for public comment during Philadelphia City Council's session of the whole. Or you can call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the Wednesday before a City Council session on Thursdays. 215-686-3406, and you submit your full name, a callback telephone number where you can be reached. You must identify the bill number. Okay, this is not a freestyle session. You're not supposed to go into the public comment period of Philadelphia City Council and just talk about whatever you would like to talk about. So you have to identify a bill that you want addressed, or that you have concerns. It's a specific piece of legislation. I highly recommend, this is just my recommendation here, so I'm just using a little bit of personal prerogative or host prerogative, maybe anchor's prerogative. I highly recommend try to look for bills or be concerned about bills. Okay, they're back on. Philadelphia City Council's public comment period is back on. Let's tune in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider our public comment, and it will go as follows. Public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendars for a possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support or against the legislation, and we will then add you to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Today, you will have 3 minutes as it relates to your time limit. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, though, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. Once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. I also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers with repetitious comments that are being made on the same matter, and to limit the scope of testimony to only certain items on the agenda during the emergency, which could affect callbacks for public comment at the meeting. Also, please be aware that this public meeting is being recorded, and because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. So I'll now ask Mr. Decker to please read the name of our first speaker.
The first speaker is Tanya Hebron, commenting on 210164.
Good morning.
Good morning. Proceed.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Hebron. I'm a first-class construction equipment operator at SEPTA, where I worked for 27 years. I am also a member of the steering committee for WINK, which stands for Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative in Philly. Thank you for the opportunity to comment in support of resolution number 210164 to recognize March 7th through the 14th as Women in Construction Week and to honor WINK. I know how important it is to make women in construction more visible so other girls and women can know it's a career option for them. That's one of the things I like the most about WINK. We have a website, podcast, and speakers bureau to spread the word that, yes, women can do these jobs and we get paid well for them. I love my job, and I want to give back by talking about what it's like to be a woman in a construction trade and to mentor the next group of tradeswomen. We need more women like me to enter and succeed in the trade. The whole community needs to get behind it, and WINK speaks to and educates everyone from unions, apprenticeships, and other training programs to trade schools, high schools, industry representatives, and anyone who wants to learn more. Another way that WINK supports tradeswomen is by gathering us together on Tradeswomen Thursdays, the third Thursday of every month. I'm proud to be a part of WINK as we support, increase, and advance participation of women in construction, manufacturing, and transit careers in the Philadelphia region. If anyone wants to connect with WINK, they should visit our website at winkproject.org. Please support this resolution to recognize March 7th through the 14th as Women in Construction Week and to honor WINK. We will be making women in construction more visible and attract more women to these satisfying and well-paying careers in the trade. Thank you to all the co-sponsors and to the City Council for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Ash Screech, commenting on 210164.
Good morning. My name is Ash Ritchie. I'm an apprentice electrician with IBW Local Union 98. I've been in the local for 3.5 years. I'm also a member of the steering committee for WINK, Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative here in Philly, and a member of WINK Speaker Bureau. I'm happy to be here to comment in support of resolution number 210164 to recognize March 7th through 14th as Women in Construction Week and to honor WINK. I personally feel very blessed to be a member of my union, to receive a free education through my union, to get paid proper wages as I learn the trade. And I want to make sure that other women have access to this opportunity. That's why I believe in WINK. I believe that it's become an important resource for aspiring tradeswomen and for young women that may not yet know about the trades as an option for them due to a lack of visibility and accessibility. Volunteer tradeswomen podcast interviews and videos, social media, our website, they provide more of that visibility to let women know that, yes, the trades are open to them, and yes, they are more than capable of doing the work. I believe this work as a whole is good for the industry, and it's incredibly important for gender equity. These traditionally male-dominated trades offer solid wages, benefits, stability. not to mention that unions have basically eliminated the gender wage gap. The more people that know about this initiative, the better, so we speak to everyone from unions, apprenticeships, and other training programs to trade schools, high schools, industry representatives, and anyone who wants to be involved or learn more, hoping to spread this message that women belong in the trades, and it is an option for them as they look towards the future. I'm proud to be part of this initiative as we support, increase, and advance the participation of women in construction, manufacturing, and transit careers in this region. Please support this resolution to recognize March 7th through 14th as Women in Construction Week and to honor WINC. Thank you to all the co-sponsors and to City Council for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Mary Gaffney, commenting on 210164.
Hello, Council. My name is Mary Gaffney. I am owner of Gem Mechanical Services, Inc., located in Aston, Pennsylvania. I am a member of the Philadelphia chapter of the National Association of Women in Construction. And although you've heard from two construction workers, female construction workers, and we've had a massive push to bring more women into the construction industry, we still only make up roughly 10% of the workforce. And many of those roles are in managerial or engineering. Very few women are working on site or in the trades. Gem Mechanical is a signatory contractor with the local Union 420 Steamfitters and local Union 690. I am here today, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I am for Resolution 210164 to recognize March 7th through the 14th as Women in Construction Week, and to honor the National Association of Women in Construction. Thank you, and thank you for your support.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes
Mr. President, before we move on to the next order of business, I just wanted to...
Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we move on, I just want to note for the record that Councilwoman Maria Quinones Sanchez, she has been with us too, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Let the record reflect that Councilwoman Sanchez is present and has been present for quite some time. Thank you. Okay. Now that we've concluded our public comment session, we will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading in our final passage calendar. So I'm going to ask Mr. Decker to please read the title of resolution number 210010.
A resolution calling on the City of Philadelphia Board of Pensions and Retirement to adopt environmental social governance criteria and request and disclose climate risk information from all relevant parties.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I am recognized for the motion, may I make brief remarks regarding this resolution?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to very quickly talk about this resolution because we've been working on this for several months. And the resolution is calling on the Pension Board to establish environmental, social, and governance criteria as a part of its investment policy statement and asking for climate risk disclosure where appropriate. We are obligated to consider the biggest risk posed to our financial system, and climate change remains a threat. Even under the best case scenarios for emissions reductions, which we are not even close to meeting, we will continue to see disruptions to every part of our global economy. We have to understand those risks and actively develop strategies to drive investment into the sectors that will help us build a resilient economy and clean energy system. Industry leaders have started looking at climate risk and sustainable investing, and the Biden administration has also demonstrated its commitment to climate finance with the selection of senior administration officials who will prioritize climate risk in their rulemaking. 2020 was a record year for ESG investing, with sustainable funds seeing record inflows and high performance. ESG funds outperformed traditional equity funds in 2020, and experts expect continued growth. When this occurs, this is a win for our fund, which is a win for our retirees. Additionally, the Pension Board has shown its commitment to our retirees and to creating thoughtful strategies to align its work with the city's other priorities, importantly, its strong commitment to diversity and inclusion. The board has actively worked to increase its investment in firms owned and operated by women and people of color through annual utilization studies, new RFP rules, inclusion in the firm interview process, tracking demographic data for each firm's management, among other strategies. Through this hard work, the board has shown that you can meet fiduciary obligations and use active strategies to address systematic challenges in the financial system. It is because of this visionary work that I wanted to work with the pension board on how we can begin thinking about our city's financial exposure to the impacts of climate change. I am grateful to the pension board, to their staff for their hard work and collaboration with my office, and I wanted to personally thank a few people from the pension board, including the staff, all the members of the pension board, but most especially Carol Stooks Baylor of DC 47, Veronica Pankey of DC 33, Ron Stagliano of the Fraternal Order of Police, and Brian Coughlin of the International Association of Firefighters, and Bob McDermott, Council President, on our team. They all work together very closely with my team, with Eliza, with Santos and Taylor, to ensure we could see this resolution to conclusion. So I want to personally thank them for their openness to working with my team and I to ensure that we were able to address all the challenges with this very complicated issue. And finally, I'd like to thank you, colleagues, for your support on this resolution and for our continued ongoing collaboration on how we can best prepare our city for the impacts of climate change. And with that, Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210161.
A resolution commemorating the life and legacy of William Cody Anderson, a legendary figure in talk radio, a pioneering leader in African-American-owned radio and media, and a positive voice in the Black community.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Can we have a moment of silence for this resolution? Thank you. Moving. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Thank you all very much. We will genuinely miss Cody big time. Class Act. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210162.
A resolution launching the establishment and funding of the Philadelphia Anti-Violence Resource Network to provide a one-stop clearinghouse of information and guide Philadelphians directly affected by violence in their communities to available resources within the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210163.
A resolution calling on the federal government to enact a plan by the end of President Biden's first 100 days in office to cancel all student loan debt and begin the transition to education as a public good.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210164.
A resolution declaring March 7th through 14, 2021 during Women's History Month as Women in Construction Week in the city of Philadelphia and honoring women in non-traditional careers for their commitment to support, increase, and advance the participation of women in construction, manufacturing, and transit careers in the Philadelphia region.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-165.
A resolution honoring and commending Jennifer R. Clark for her 15-year tenure as the Executive Director of the Public Interest Law Center and her strategic, pioneering, and transformative work to expand access to justice that has changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people across Pennsylvania and the nation.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210-166.
A resolution recognizing the Philadelphia Obituary Project for its work to provide dignity to homicide victims and solace to their families by remembering and honoring those victims' lives.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210-167.
A resolution designating Monday, March 1, 2021 as COVID-19 Remembrance Day in the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Green for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. This week we've had a lot of great news as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Wolf announced how the J&J vaccines will be used to vaccinate teachers throughout the Commonwealth, and he anticipates that we'll have all teachers and contractors vaccinated by the end of March. Also, President Biden recently announced that he anticipates by the end of May, all those in the nation that wants to receive vaccines will be able to receive vaccines by the end of May. And we also just opened our FEMA site as well to provide 6,000 vaccines a day here in the city of Philadelphia. So we're making great progress, but we also have to recognize and remember that a year ago, we were in our council chambers, we're doing things that we normally would do, and then we had the onset of the novel coronavirus. And we have lost over 500,000 souls in this nation. In Philadelphia alone, over 3,000 people. And so we have to recall and remember all of the people that lost their lives, our first responders, our essential workers, so many individuals that we have lost based on this pandemic. I want to commend Smart City Policy for working with various cities around the nation. 152 cities and 36 states acknowledged March 1st as our first COVID Victims and Survivors Memorial Day. And I think because of the impact that this pandemic has had, and for us to never forget those people that we've lost, so many of our loved ones, our friends, co-workers, that is important for us to acknowledge this anniversary. And with that, Council President, after the motion, I'd like us to take a moment of silence to just reflect on what has happened over the past year. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Can we take a moment of silence? Thank you. Let that moment of silence reflect in a favorable vote for the resolution, and that resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210168.
A resolution recognizing and congratulating Renee Henderson on the occasion of her retirement from community behavioral health after more than 2 decades of faithful and dedicated service.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Green for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210170.
A resolution congratulating Councilmember Sherelle L. Parker on her historic appointment as Board Chair of the Delaware River Port Authority and honoring her work as a board member and trailblazing leader in Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Don for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I congratulate and applaud Majority Leader Parker and ask for the approval of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210171.
A resolution honoring and congratulating the After School Activities and Partnerships Chess Club for their bringing together over 150 clubs and 2,500 students across the city and being instrumental in Philadelphia being named Chess City of the Year by U.S. Chess.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
Really thank the American Heart Association, and I move for the adoption of this very important resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210173.
A resolution recognizing and honoring Lynette Medley and her daughter, Naya McLone, for their menstrual hub, the Spot Period, and for their work they have done to provide menstrual products and ongoing support for those suffering from period poverty.
Thank you. One more time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned last week, period poverty is a real issue, and it's a very serious issue. And those of us who are women who have a menstrual cycle, we know that the terror that can happen when your menstrual cycle becomes, it happens and you are unaware that it was going to happen. And so for women who are in period poverty and do not have access to product, it's critically important. So all that being said, I move for the adoption of this also very important resolution today.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210174.
A resolution recognizing the month of February as National African American Read-In Month and honoring Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas, Humanizing Stories Project, for its work to bring together diverse voices from the world of children's media, literature, and culture through digital advocacy, community projects, and classroom resources.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm honored to move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-175.
A resolution refuting the article Contracting for Sex in the Pacific War, which contradicts the historical consensus and evidence of the thousands of women forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese Imperial Army before and during World War II, written by J. Mark Ramsayer, Mitsubishi Professor of Japanese Legal Studies at Harvard Law School.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to resolution number 210-175. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to resolution number 210-175 be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the resolution has been amended. Chair again recognizes Councilman O for a motion on the amended resolution.
Thank you. I move for the adoption of the resolution as amended.
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Second. Yes. Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the resolution as amended be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-085.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, providing for expansion of the Board of License and Inspection Review, and providing for the submission of the proposed amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion on the resolution.
Mr. President, that requires 2/3 vote.
Okay. That requires 2/3 vote. Thank you, Mr. Decker, our more than capable Chief Clerk. Councilwoman Parker?
Yes, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
May I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that the resolution be adopted because resolution number 210-085 is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. It requires 2/3 vote. Therefore, the question is, shall this resolution be adopted? Chief Clerk will call the roll. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. More than 2/3 of all members of the council having voted in the affirmative, resolution number 210-085 has been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Decker. Please read the title of bill number 210-077. Hear me, Mr. Decker, did you hear me?
Oh, I apologize, Mr. President. An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the general fund of the council to the general fund of the Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kendra Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. The majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210120.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the general fund, the council, to the general fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and thereby implementing council's new normal jobs initiative.
This bill had been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kendra Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210121.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance, provision for other grants, to the General Fund, the Managing Director.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. 3 weeks ago, I stood in front of the link and implored the mayor to put in place a vaccination plan big enough and bold enough to vaccinate this city with the speed our citizens demand in order to get our lives back, our families back, and get us back to work. For 3 weeks, the administration rejected the plan, saying we didn't have enough vaccines to make a site as big as the link necessary. During these weeks, I asked the administration to plan for a time when vaccines exceed our capacity to deliver them through normal channels. Last week, I called on the mayor to deliver to City Council a plan to do just that. I said then that without a plan for scaling up capacity to meet doses, I could not, in good conscience, vote to hand over more money to the administration. Then last Saturday, the front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer, in a banner headline, said what I feared all along. The city's problem was no longer a lack of vaccines, but our lack of capacity to distribute them. If you didn't think we needed a plan when the mayor was saying we had more than enough capacity, surely now, 3 weeks later, we are running out of capacity and a plan is needed, detailing specifically how we're going to scale up. Now, less than 24 hours ago, we finally received last night their plan. My fellow colleagues, this plan will not get us to where we need to be. Here's why. The city based its dosage estimates on President Biden's plan he laid out in mid-February to deliver 300 million doses to America by the end of July. A plan based on Biden's mid-February projections would have made sense, but for the fact that 48 hours ago, as Councilmember Green noted today, the president changed the timetable, and now 300 million doses are going to be delivered by the end of May. 2 months earlier than the president's earlier projection. 2 months earlier. And unfortunately for all of us, 2 months earlier than the city's current plan. This plan can only mean one thing. The city intends to get all of our vaccines by the end of May, but remains woefully unprepared to deliver them until the end of July. And that's if you believe in the ability of the city to scale up to deliver them by July, given the plan they presented. So let me just take a quick look at the plan. This plan says that 35% of the city's capacity to deliver doses by the last week of April will come from FEMA. There are only two problems with this assumption. First, the FEMA site is set to close by the last week of April. Second, FEMA is not responsible for providing capacity for the city's dose allocation. FEMA has its own separate dose allocation. Now let's rerun the numbers for a moment using the current White House plan for vaccine delivery and the current understanding of FEMA's role in our city's distribution. Assume under the Biden timeline, our dose count is 200,000 per week by the end of April, and not the 120,000 under the city's plan. Taking FEMA doses out of the city's capacity equation means we can deliver 78,000 of those 200,000 doses that we will be receiving every week thereafter. At which time, according to the president's new timeline, we will receive our full share of doses. That leaves us over 122,000 doses undelivered each week for 4 weeks. So this plan would have City Council accept today the proposition that in a city of 1.5 million people, we will delay dosing almost 500,000 of our residents, all because we couldn't figure out how to scale up capacity to dose them faster than through the end of July. My fellow colleagues, this is a plan built for failure. The fighting COVID disaster just doesn't happen on its own. It happens because we fail to plan. Jumping the line at the convention center doesn't just happen. It happens because we fail to plan. 22% of the doses going to African Americans, who make up 44% of Philadelphia, doesn't just happen. It happens because we failed to prevent it. When the convention center was chosen as a FEMA site, I was concerned, and I warned that putting a mega site in Center City, a 67% white neighborhood, using a registry that is disproportionately white, would not achieve racial equity. Today, an article that came out today, WHYY reports that the white neighborhoods within walking distance of the convention center are trying to jump the line. And what is the administration's response? The mayor said, scolding Philadelphians to examine their conscience. I say to the mayor and administration, why don't we first examine our failed technology? I've asked for a one-stop shop to manage scheduling so these failures would end and do the work necessary to correct the problems that come with a lack of planning. We don't expect perfection, but we do expect leadership to admit when they are wrong, have made mistakes, and then let's work together to get it right. Just this morning, I received a response to my questioning of the projected doses in the plan. The mayor says the plan is fluid and that the charts are merely illustrative. Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of action plans in my day. And when the planners use words like fluid and illustrative, it usually means there is no plan. I listened to President Biden when he revised the timetable for doses. I assure you that President Biden was not being fluid or illustrative when he announced his plan, and neither should we. Until we own up to the real numbers and a real plan, we will lose the fight for racial equity and ensure that our city will still be fighting this pandemic while other big cities in America are on the road to recovery. Three weeks ago, I said the link was the best option for scaling up capacity to deliver doses with speed and equity. Yesterday, I hosted a conference call with our partners who could get this done, and they all stand ready to deploy the link to deliver 10,000 plus vaccinations a day. Today, the link doesn't just stand as the best option. It's probably the only option on large scale we have left to get there by the end of May. The mayor wants us to hand over $50 million today for this plan that does not work. I cannot vote until I see a plan that works. One that's as big and bold as the hopes and dreams we all have for a city that can finally put this pandemic behind us. This is the most important issue of our life. Thank you, Mr. President.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill, if he wants to be.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I had a technical
connection problem, and I'd like to be recorded as voting aye on bill number 210120 and bill number 210077.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Council.
you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Councilmember Dom for all of the work and advocacy he has done on this effort, really elevating the seriousness of the amount of work in front of us. And yesterday's plan submitted by the administration that was produced prior to the Biden administration, I agree with him, must be updated to reflect some of those realities. This has been a very, very bumpy ride. I said that last Thursday as I stood in the mass vaccination center in my district, as I work with FEMA and all of the federally certified health centers, not only in my district, but throughout the city, for us to roll out bolder, more aggressive plans. Transportation is a challenge. We saw that even in Center City. We have many seniors scheduled today and tomorrow, and many of my nonprofit organizations have had to rent vans and provide transportation services to get folks here to Center City, and it's been an incredible challenge. And so I agree with Councilman Dom that this plan has to be updated and bolder. I know that Councilwoman Bass, who now is part of the Vaccination Advisory Council, will work with the administration. I know district council people are working on this aggressively to ensure equity. In addition to Community Academy High School in my district, I have several different locations that FEMA is looking at in my district. So yes, it's not an either or, it is and as we scale up this issue. But we have to bear in mind that SEPTA and some of the challenges of SEPTA create a problem for folks wanting to get on public transportation. And ultimately, it is about getting those small independent providers in our district, the smaller pharmacies, all of those things which we are working on, all of us, to ensure as much neighborhood-based access and possible. So I join the council member in saying, yes, this plan needs to be updated and reflected. I encourage all of my council colleagues to continue to work with Councilmember Bass and the administration to expand that access. And I do think, and I will continue to support Councilmember Dom and whoever submits a proposal for the link, for that to also become an option for us. Are we where we need to be? Absolutely not, Council President Clark, and I appreciate the leadership team for meeting with the administration and being aggressive about us needing to do more. But nevertheless, I don't want to send a message to the citizens of Philadelphia that City Council is going to hold up any resources for us to get a vaccination plan on the ground, but I will continue to pressure and insist that these plans continue to be updated and reflect that goal of equity. I too want to make sure that we establish goals that are reachable around this equity issue, and particularly as we roll out the 1C category, where districts like mine, essential workers, many of us believe should have been on 1A, not 1C. All of these restaurant workers, healthcare workers, all the folks who have been working throughout this entire year and this pandemic. So I want to thank Councilmember Dom for his advocacy. I want to thank you, Council President, our leadership team, and Councilwoman Bass. We're going to keep pushing. This is not the end of the conversation. This is a continuing conversation. I'm happy to continue to provide updates as the administration provides them to us. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I too want to thank Council members Bass, Dom, Quinones, Sanchez, and quite frankly, all members of this body for aggressively pursuing the equitable distribution of the COVID vaccine to all residents in the city of Philadelphia. The passion and the sense of urgency that we hear from all regarding this issue is extremely necessary and warranted. With that being said, Mr. President, I just wanted to note for the record that when we hear that the plan that was presented is fluid, as a result of our leadership meeting, Mr. President, that we had with the administration last week, I have to affirm that it is fluid. And it is fluid because one of the things that we have talked about that was not included in what was distributed is vaccine sites, that what we're calling neighborhood-based vaccine sites. One in every council district in particular. In addition to that, Mr. President, I have to note this. I am a huge fan of information, Mr. President, and one of the things that we discussed is that every vaccination site throughout the city of Philadelphia, and particularly by council district, should be readily available for public view, so that no matter where you live in the city of Philadelphia, we wouldn't care if it's the vaccine is being distributed at a hospital or at a church, or some other neighborhood-based facility, that residents across the city should see that menu. During our leadership meeting, the mayor and his team affirmed that and noted that that is something as well that they would work on, while making sure that district council members, in particular, and of course all of our at-large members would be informed and asked to add value, Mr. President, where possible. So to Councilmember Dom, Councilmember Bass, Maria Quinones Sanchez, and all members of council, I think we're all rowing in the right direction, because we want to see the equitable distribution of this vaccine readily available to people across the city and in neighborhoods across the city. So thank you all, and I'm proud to be a part of this body that has not in any way, shape, or form underestimated the sense of urgency that we face right now regarding this issue. So Councilmember Dom in particular, I want to thank you, sir, for your leadership. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Point of information, Mr. President. Point of information.
Jump in the line, sir, but go ahead.
No, I'll wait. No, I'll wait. Not a problem.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you very much, Council President. I quickly wanted to thank our Appropriations Chair, Councilmember Sanchez, for her work. Even during the hearing, I was listening to that Appropriations Committee hearing, and our Chair of Public Health and Human Services, Councilmember Bass, for all of her work on this issue. But I also rise in continued support of my colleague, Councilmember Dom, and for his persistence in ensuring that we can have an equitable distribution of the vaccine across communities here in the city of Philadelphia. And while I recognize we have faced significant challenges at the onset of the distribution, I do want to personally thank the administration for partnering and working with my office to ensure that we were able to have a briefing for local community pharmacies to walk them through the process step by step on how they can become a part of the vaccine distribution in our local communities in Philadelphia. So I agree with our majority leader and our leadership team that we are all rowing in the same direction, and it's important for us to continue to work together to have an equitable distribution of the vaccine. And while the numbers are increasing, we are still on the low end as it relates to African Americans who have been vaccinated in the city. So I want to continue to work with all of you, all of my colleagues, our leadership team, and the administration to ensure that we can have a distribution of this vaccine across zip codes in the city of Philadelphia. And I want to put on the record 3 neighborhoods that I have heard from consistently in my office. And I'm going to put this on the record today so that folks know where I am now. Of course, Councilmember Jones, my district council member, and my colleague, I'm going to put Winfield on the record. We have naturally occurring aging communities, particularly in Winfield Heights, but also we have a large seasoned citizens population in Winfield proper. So I'm putting Winfield 19131 on the map. Also, I've heard from a number of constituents, and I can't even count. My team will have to give me the full number from the Northeast. And while we recognize we want this distribution to be equitable, I have to put on the record that I've heard from so many Philadelphians in that community around the need to be vaccinated. And finally, Councilmember Squilla, the first council district, I receive a lot of calls from that area as well. That is technically my home district. And where my grandmother resides. So I have to put a plug in for South Philadelphia on the east side of Broad Street. But I look forward to continuing to work with the administration and with all of you to ensure that we have an equitable distribution of this vaccine. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before I proceed, Councilman Jones, I apologize. Did you call for a point of order? You're on mute, Councilman. Uh-oh.
You just left the meeting.
Okay. Councilman Jones? Councilman Jones, we got you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
I'm
President.
sorry, did you call for a point of order, Councilman?
It was a point of information, but that's okay.
Go ahead, you can go ahead.
I yield. All right, so I actually yield that point of information, but I would, if there are no other people in front of me, I would like to make a point on this topic.
Yeah, Councilman Green is teed up to speak.
I yield?
I did want to acknowledge your...
Council President, Council members can continue.
Thank you. One of the things about what Majority Leader Parker talked about and in the meetings that we've had is communications. There's a lot being done, but it's not being documented as accurately in a way that gives other members in this body the degree of confidence that they need and should have. And that is in part because there are other entities outside of government entities that have to report in that plan. There are other entities doing vaccinations, and there are overlapping priorities, quite frankly. And what we found, and what your leadership, and I thank you for intervening in this negotiations, dialogue, and joint plan, is that we're looking at what we control within city government and what we can influence in the private sector and federal government. An example of that is the plan to work with private drugstores, CVS and Rite Aid. That is the overlapping plan. Internally, we're trying to move departments to make sure essential workers are vaccinated. People that work in our prisons, people that work in the police department, people that work in the fire department, and teachers that are going back into classrooms. All of these aspects of a unified plan have to be put in one, as member Majority Leader Parker stated, a matrix, a single point of information. And that's the difficulty that is before us, because a lot of people are doing things, but if we don't coordinate and communicate those things, people assume the worst. So I just want to say that as district council people, which I appreciate the administration is doing, nobody knows your district, Mr. President, like you do. Access to transportation, different vulnerable populations that are being impacted. And all of those things are being considered by an administration that doesn't have a playbook that they can pull from and have to build and fly a plane in a pandemic at the same time. And I just want to say, as an observation, no, we don't have Fauci, like the national health director, but we do have Farley, who is not perfect, but in my opinion, is striving to move things in the right direction. And at times, members of this body feel not fast enough, but this is not something we've done before. And we are trying to get it right. And I vouch for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I thank all the colleagues for weighing in on this issue. Earlier in this session, we did a resolution acknowledging those who are lost to this pandemic, and we have a fight on our hands, but we should not be fighting against each other. I supported Councilmember Dom's proposal to add the link as another location for vaccine distribution. I did that based on my communications and discussions with colleagues in National League of Cities and Pennsylvania Municipal League and other organizations around the country, because I saw what they were doing. And even though I'm going to vote for this resolution, I'm still going to continue to push for the issue that Councilmember Dom is talking about, that we need to all look at all available options in reference to winning this fight against COVID. And I just think it's unfortunate that we are spending time fighting against each other and not fighting together against COVID. So just because Councilmember Dom continues to push for the link as a location and made his position known that he's going to vote against this bill because it's concerns, and others in this body will vote for it, we should not take the perspective that the administration coming out of Councilmember Dom's position to continue to fight him on his position regarding the link. We're going to be in a position, and hopefully soon, having numerous vaccines that we need to get out to people all around the city of Philadelphia, both at large locations like the link or at the convention center, or smaller locations that a number of members of council discussed. Just yesterday, we had a call with the Pennsylvania Municipal League prior to the governor's announcement when we learned about the fact that J&J vaccines will be used and prioritized for teachers. The first allotment will be about 94,000 vaccines, and they anticipate another allotment in order to vaccinate all teachers by the end of March, all teachers and contractors by the end of March. And I asked what is going to be the plan after that, once we've gotten through the teachers, about getting other allotments of J&J vaccines to do additional mass vaccinations around the Commonwealth. And at that point, Secretary Gormaz, who was the Secretary of Intergovernmental Affairs, said, well, we're not sure. We're still working through that information. We don't know all the allotment of vaccines we'll receive through J&J. So this is a situation that's very fluid. And so we need to work together. We'll disagree on different opinions. Members have the right to vote for or against any bill or resolution. But at the same point, just because someone takes a position, we should not then attack them for taking that position, because we're all trying to do all that we can to address this situation. As I stated earlier in this week, I was deeply offended about a comment that came from the mayor's office in reference to my support and other members' support for Councilmember Dom's proposal regarding the link. But I'm still going to continue to work for it, because we can't spend time fighting against each other. So I hope in the spirit of this conversation and this debate on this bill, that regardless of what position people take, both administration and members of council, going forward, we're going to fight together against COVID and not fight against each other. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I agree that we are all trying to deal with this pandemic and doing the best we can. The executive branch is responsible for planning. They have the personnel, and they're responsible for execution. They come to us to ask for money. And this money that they've asked, it's not the first time. It's not specified. They want a lot of flexibility. I understand that. But I agree with Councilmember Ellen Don, because about this time, it will be over $225 million, they have to produce a plan. It's late in the day. We're not in the first quarter. This is a year. And knowing that the vaccines are coming, and with all the issues that we have, I expect a better plan, and I will be voting no to encourage the administration to produce a better, more detailed plan that covers all four corners of this city and every demographic that they are supposed to cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just really wanted to, I don't want to belabor the point because I know there's been a lot of conversation on the issue. And I just wanted to say a couple of things really quickly. And one is that we all recognize that when it comes to the city of Philadelphia and how COVID was handled, the city really stumbled getting out of the gate. So this plan is a welcome game changer in this series of events that have really shattered public confidence in city government. But I do believe that we are on the right track. But if we really want to address the racial divide in terms of who's getting it and who needs it, then we really need to follow the lead of public health experts and press that are stating that African American and Latino communities need to be vaccinated at younger ages. The age requirement has to be lowered to qualify for the vaccine for communities that, if they are infected, will likely have a much more catastrophic outcome. And so we have to think about how do we lower the age here in Philadelphia. We know we can do this. We know that it really requires the leadership of the mayor, and we think that this is something that has to happen if you really want to do something about those who get the virus. And then let's say if you're 45, you may have a different outcome if you're African American or Latino versus someone who is not and who's 65 or older. The odds are against you. So I just really want to put that into the conversation. Certainly hope the administration is listening and hearing what needs to be done. I think that we're on the right track, but we need vaccine sites in the neighborhoods. We need the vaccine site at the convention center, and we can still use and need the vaccine site down at the link as well. It doesn't have to be one or the other. We can have it all. And I believe we can do this. We cannot call ourselves seriously a city of eds and meds without being able to figure this out. This should really be a no-brainer. We really can do it all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, I'm not going to belabor the point two, and thanks everybody for working on this. We know how serious this is. I just wanted to add one more thing, and it was that, before the concern was that we may not have enough vaccines to have these sites, but now the concern is maybe we don't have enough providers to provide the vaccine. So I think what the call should be from all of us is to, let's talk to our partners out there and providers and locations, and, let's try to work with the administration. And I agree, we need as many sites as possible up, and we need to get vaccines in as many arms as possible. So now that we know that the vaccines will be coming in, and as Councilmember Dom had said that, there's going to be more than we can handle, we need now to plan for getting those partners on board so we can distribute these vaccines. And hopefully with all of us combined, continuing to work together, we'll get to that point. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm not supposed to speak from the podium, so I will not do that because apparently that influences votes, so I won't speak from the podium. But I do want to say that, reiterate first my commitment and now leadership's commitment to continue to carry the messages from the members of council and move the needle forward on all aspects of what you all talk about. So that is taking place and will continue to take place. We appreciate everybody's perspective because it is very important. So with that, Mr. Decker, can you please read the title one more time of 210-121?
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance, provision for other grants, General Fund, the Managing Director.
This bill hadn't been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Nay.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 15 and nays are 2. Majority of all members having voted in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210073.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, providing for the expansion of the Board of License and Inspection Review, as approved by resolution of the City Council, fixing the date of special election for such purpose, prescribing the form of ballot question to be voted on, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210080.
An ordinance amending section 2610 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Statement of Financial Interests by revising the required conditions and information for filing.
Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Council.
I'm sorry. This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, now call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210082.
An ordinance amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contracts and Procurement by amending Chapter 17-1400 entitled Non-Competitively Bid Contracts, Financial Assistance to provide procedures applicable to the awarding of contracts to non-city providers of vaccine doses for COVID-19 and related variants.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Councilman Johnson.
Council President.
Yeah, you got it.
Aye, Council President.
Okay, got you. Thank you. Ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Finance to hold hearings regarding the potential of land value taxation in and for Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings examining best practices and new ideas for safely reopening the City of Philadelphia's workspaces, including office buildings, city buildings, and other high-risk congregate settings not currently operating at pre-pandemic capacity, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dunn.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold hearings on a recently revealed memo from a Philadelphia Police Department captain instructing his officers to increase pedestrian and motor vehicle stops not related to crime and jeopardizing data collection mandated by federal consent decree, introduced by Councilman Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution in honor of Women's History Month. We take this opportunity to renew and recognize March 10th as Harriet Tubman Day in the City of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Squilla.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to obtain an update on the status of the city's plan to ensure all parks or playgrounds owned or controlled by the City of Philadelphia are inclusive, intergenerational, and accessible for all disabilities and special needs, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs to hold hearings to obtain an update on the status of the City Council's security camera program for Philadelphia's playgrounds and recreation centers, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committees on Commerce and Economic Development and Public Health and Human Services to conduct a joint hearing to review the past and current guidance for restaurant capacity and, if needed, make recommendations to the Philadelphia Health Department to either change current restaurant capacity requirements or recommend future restaurant capacity requirements, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for today. And we will now move to our speeches. We have a process prior to recognizing those members regarding speeches. I will note for the record at this time, we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. With that said, are there any speeches on behalf of the minority? The chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I wanted to thank all my colleagues for voting to adopt Resolution 210175, which is a resolution refuting the article Contracting for Sex in the Pacific War. This is Women's History Month, and we're talking about history. This is something that happened in the 1930s and 40s, yet people will be very upset as though it is an attack upon them today. It is not. But you cannot change history when there is such a consensus and overwhelming evidence of the atrocities against women during World War II by the Japanese Imperial Army, well documented. And I won't go into that. However, unfortunately, there was an article, and I read the article, it's not a very long article, by a Harvard law professor, Mark Ramsayer, which basically brought forth the idea that before World War II, during and after, women voluntarily contracted through an elaborate process of being prostitutes for the Japanese army and refuting the testimony, the photographs, all the history about the brutalization of women during that war, and the thousands and thousands of women, girls, and children that were abducted, tricked, brutalized. Over 90% died. And he entirely misses a reference to the rape of Nanking, where the Japanese army horrifically brutalized up to 300,000 people dead. Photographs of atrocious acts of sexual violence and atrocities against women and girls and children. This rewriting of history should be refuted. I will say that my father was born in Manchuria in China because the Japanese occupied Korea. And my father has no axe to grind with the Japanese. He was actually a student at Meiji University. My two uncles, Tokyo Imperial University, at a time where there was great discrimination against Koreans by the Japanese in occupied Korea and others. And there were wonderful people in Japan. And there have been Japanese leaders who have spoken out against this. And here in the United States, Congressman Honda, a Democrat from California, has led this effort as well. But he did tell me, and he's dead. He died in 2006. And one of the problems is people who have witnessed this are dead. They are dying. And the people who have testified and seen it, as they pass away, a new version of history comes out. We had a conversation once where he told me that the Japanese army came in and took hundreds of girls out of a middle school by force. Where they went, we don't know, but they never came back. It's assumed and understood that they weren't recruiting volunteers to go to the war front with a brutal army to get paid as prostitutes And because of venereal disease and other things, they were looking for the youngest, most physically fit girls. The history is that women have been brutalized in wars. It is commonly understood that many of the prizes and the booty of these wars was raping women and girls and other things. And so I do appreciate that we do record this in history, that we acknowledge it, we don't forget it, and I think this resolution is a statement from this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Speech is going to be Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And first, I want to acknowledge my colleague, Councilman Dom, not because of his advocacy to deal with the plan of the virus, but for something different. He spent two hours with me online with about 30 students during Black History Month, listening to their poems, listening to their speeches, and it meant so much to those young people to have council people pay attention to what they said, and more importantly, some of the feelings that they've had during the uprisings, during the pandemic, came across loud and clear to the both of us. And I just want to publicly acknowledge my colleague for spending that quality time with young people who will never forget your involvement. And so thank you. The second thing I want to talk about is the scales of justice. And, you know, being chair of public safety, you know, I spent a little time researching what that actually meant, and the symbol of justice with the goddess holding the two scales. Sometimes she had a blindfold, sometimes she had a sword in the left hand. But my interpretation of that symbol is balancing the rights of victims with the rights of the accused, and to come out with justice. And last week, two things happened. One, I stood beside Member Gaudier and Commissioner Outlaw when they apprehended 4 individuals that had are accused of doing 9 shootings in my district and Member Gaudier's district. And we stood in that church where some of the families of the victims now could at least rest a little more at peace with the fact that the city of Philadelphia, the district attorney's office, the Philadelphia Police Department are actually out there apprehending shooters. So that's one part of that scale, Mr. President. The other part of that scale, which I was proud to hear about, is the prevention of people pre-entry, as Keir Gray often calls it, by a group of barbers out at ESPN Zone. They have a youth program, and they think very highly of you, Member Green. You have street cred among them. And they are, and I don't know how it works in your barbershop, Mr. President, but they serve as therapists for us, whether it comes to sports, whether it comes to family issues, whether it comes to politics, they are our therapists. But what I didn't know was that they're interveners also when it comes to youth violence, that they hear what's going on. And Mike, who runs ESPN, along with his colleagues and other barbers around the city, actually have had in their back rooms, in their barbershops, interventions, because they service both ends, both corners, and are able to come in and say, as credible messengers, y'all should stop. And I know you got street cred from North Philly. I heard something about Member Green, but from Mount Airy, it's a whole different thing. But they still have that street cred with these vulnerable populations. And they're putting together a to intervene, to become mentors, to become counselors to these young people, And when I heard about it, it created that scale of balance. We have the left hand of punishment, that sword you often see in the justice, and whether you're in South Philly, West Philly, North Philly, Mount Airy, or Germantown, people want to make sure that police and the district attorney and the courts are doing their part to keep them safe. But on the other end of the spectrum, of the scales, that we're trying to prevent some of this, that we care enough about these young people to put out our resources. And I'm proud to say that they're watching us. Didn't know this. Like, I thought in barbershops all you were going to get is some basketball, but they are actually paying attention to what we're doing, and I'm thankful for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much. That is clearly the place where we get educated as elected officials. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and colleagues. I just wanted to follow up on two things unintentionally that wasn't an original part of my conversation this morning, but I did want to mention that Councilman Curtis Jones, I wanted to thank him for his conversation around the importance of making sure that we engage our salon owners, our barbershops, our stylists. We have an upcoming series, the first in a series of conversations that we're going to have, and I want to invite anyone who's listening that's in that part of the beauty business to a series of conversations that we're going to be having called Shop Talk. And that's going to be held this coming Monday, 5 p.m. And we're going to have our first featured speaker, which is Michael Rashid, our city's Director of Commerce, talking about how we can get businesses on track in this, with COVID and everything that's happening and the problems that businesses are facing right now. So we're very, very excited about that. And we want folks, regardless of where you are in the city, out of the city, if you have clients that you serve, then this is going to be a series of conversations that is going to serve you well. So we want to encourage folks to contact our office and be a part of Shop Talk. The other thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to thank my colleague, Councilman David O., for his commentary regarding women who were used essentially as sex slaves during World War II. We need to shine a light on the atrocities. We need to make sure that they don't continue to happen. And we know whether it was during World War II, before World War II, or even in a few years ago with the young women in Africa who were taken from a school in the middle of the night, who were kidnapped, and some of them have never resurfaced. We need to pay attention to the atrocities against women, and this is Women's History Month. So, I just really thank him for being, someone who is really progressive and thoughtful when it comes to the opposite sex and is paying attention to the issues that we face. I also wanted to say that, as I mentioned, this coming Monday is International Women's Day, and that celebrates the social, economic, political, and cultural achievements of women all over the world, and it raises awareness of, lobbies for, and fundraises for global gender equality. The 2021 theme for International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge, which calls for all people to confront gender bias and equality and take action for gender equality. Individuals and organizations all over the world are invited to share hashtag Choose to Challenge images in the lead up to International Women's Day 2021. Each photo will feature an individual raising their hand to show one's commitment to challenging inequality, calling out bias, questioning stereotypes, and helping forge an inclusive world. Support for women comes at a critical time when we have experienced adverse impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic. Black, Indigenous, and women of color disproportionately work in industries experiencing job losses, and many jobs considered essential, such as nurses, home health aides, and child care workers, are dominated by women. Today, I want to recognize Vision 2020, Women's Way, the Women's Campaign International, the Womanist Working Collective, My Sister's Keeper Collective, and Women Organized Against Rape for their work in mobilizing, investing in, empowering, and supporting women and girls in Philadelphia. Thank you all for building a movement towards achieving women's equality in Philadelphia and setting a national and global example of campaigning for positive change. It is important that we continue to highlight the inequities and achievements of women and amplify the diverse voices of women around the world as we celebrate International Women's Day and Women's History Month. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President. And I wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Green, for his resolution that passed today acknowledging each life lost due to COVID-19. I rose this morning to the devastating news that we have lost yet another Philadelphian to COVID-19. And my heart was very, very heavy to hear the passing of someone many of us have worked with in City Hall. You could find him on the 4th floor on the Northeast corridor when he was in the Civil Affairs Unit with the Philadelphia Police Department. So I wanted to rise today to acknowledge the loss and the passing of someone that, again, many of us have worked with over the years in City Hall, Officer Aaron Tokley. He was also a minister at Calvary Baptist Church, and I wanted to thank him for his 24 years of service and say to his family that our thoughts and prayers are with you. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please feel free to let us know. But I wanted to acknowledge his passing as we have worked so closely over the years with him. And I just remember him sitting by the metal detectors on the 4th floor and always had a kind word to say. He was always dressed to the nines. You can always count on him to have on a very nice suit and down to the shoes. He was just a wonderful dresser, and I'm just going to miss him, his kind words, his encouraging spirit, and my prayers are definitely with his family and the entire Philadelphia Police Department, particularly the 12th, the 25th, and the Civil Affairs Unit. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, someone sent me his picture last night. I'm like, wow, he's a good guy. Yeah. This is a brutal disease, I tell you. We got it.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to take a moment to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, as it relates to the recent passing, as well as Councilmember Green, as it relates to his resolution. I appreciate both of your leadership. Outside of that, we did have a hearing a little while back as it relates to hit and runs, and my office has been in a lot of communication with different people, and unfortunately, and I want to thank Ike Raw in his interaction with victims for helping us with this issue. Some of the people in North Philadelphia section of the city are in trauma, and we want to also offer our condolences to Roberto Velez, who was a 60-year-old person who unfortunately was hit and killed by a hit-and-run accident that happened yesterday as well, too. And so we just want to offer our condolences to that community, the family. We understand it was a really, really unfortunate situation that traumatized a lot of people. And this is another problem that we have in our city that this legislative body is working to rectify. So thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront with your hearing. Any other speeches? I don't see any. So,
President?
Yeah.
Actually, I did have one quick comment.
Councilman Green? Yeah,
Yes.
Recognize Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank both council members Gilmore Richardson and Thomas for bringing those points to our attention, to the public's attention, especially those who were not aware of those tragic loss of life that once again grip us as we continue to deal with COVID. Want to bring a little more positive point for some. I know last summer both my colleagues, Councilmember Parker and Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, were very, very disappointed that they could not celebrate in a activity and a gathering of women that wear the colors of pink and green. I know they were very disappointed that they didn't have the opportunity to salute the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha who were scheduled to have their national convention or boule that was going to be here in the city of Philadelphia. However, this evening, they are going to be having their 90th virtual North Atlantic Regional Conference. They're going to have their public meeting this evening at 7 p.m. and then a reception at 8:30 p.m. This is an outstanding organization. We know our current vice president is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. There are a number of members of past members of the city council, as well as my chief of staff, Kyra Harris, Stephanie Marsh, works for the mayor's office, a number of outstanding women in the history of this city. So I know they're calling on all of the public to participate and attend their public meeting, especially those of the Divine Nine. And I know for both council members Parker and Gilmore Richardson, who were so disappointed that they could not salute and have a chance to wear pink and green last summer, they can now do it this evening in a virtual way by supporting the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha in their 90th conference that'll be virtually held here in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. And with that, the chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. The council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And again, be safe. Thank you.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, you just listened in to Philadelphia City Council. Philadelphia City Council now adjourned for the day. They will be back next Thursday. Let's take a quick break. After that break, we're going to open up the phone lines for the next hour, 215-634-8065, toll-free 866-361-09001, to give you a reaction to what you just heard in Philadelphia City Council as they were meeting live and virtually. I want to talk about voting rights. We have to talk about voting rights and also the threat that is looming in Washington, D.C. today. So there is a high alert emergency that is happening in the nation's capital. The nation's capital on high alert for another attack because of credible intelligence that an attack may happen. But I do definitely want to talk about voting rights as well. But let's also get a reaction to what you just heard in City Council. 215-634-8065, toll-free 866-361-0900 here on. Now we're transitioning back to Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery, right here on WURD Radio.
Tune in to More Than That with Gia Peppers live this Sunday, March 7th at 2 p.m. on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This episode of More Than That is sponsored by KRC Kroger Company, who is committed to becoming the most inclusive company in the world. Everybody in.
WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. Join us as we embark on a 3-city contest that will highlight Black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. You can nominate yourself or your favorite Black woman-owned business and enter to win a marketing campaign valued at $5,000. Level Up is a joint production of WURD Radio in Philadelphia, WVON in Chicago, and KJLH in Los Angeles. These 3 Black-owned stations are joining forces to host a historic, interactive, and multimedia contest spotlighting Black women-owned businesses in Philly, Chicago, and Los Angeles. The deadline for submissions is March 15th. Philadelphia finalists will be featured in a special 2-hour live on-air pitch party on March 31st, where the Philadelphia winner will be selected. Go to wordradio.com and click on the Level Up banner for more information or to nominate yourself or a Black woman-owned business you love. The 2021 Level Up contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, PECO, Keystone First, Thomas Jefferson University, and Jefferson Health.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
James Schuler Memorial Boxing Gym presents Around the Way Rumbling, an amateur boxing event Saturday, March 6th. The first bout is at 2 p.m. at James Schuler Memorial Gym, located at 750 North Brooklyn Street off of 42nd and Lancaster Avenue. Boxing saves lives, and this is the perfect time to join the gym. Monthly memberships and boxing lessons are available for ages 7 through 70. For sponsorship information, call Crystal at 717-421-0512.
COVID-19 has highlighted the need for digital equity and internet adoption programs. Comcast's Internet Essentials program is designed to connect families to low-cost, high-speed internet and laptops so students can be ready for anything. Since 2011, Comcast has connected 4 million students from low-income families to the internet through its Internet Essentials program. Learn more about how Internet Essentials is connecting students.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
Okay, phone lines are open for the remainder of the hour until we reach the end of this program. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. I should stress, as we go into our open phone line session, that the issue of vehicular-based deaths in the city of Philadelphia is a very, very serious problem. Philadelphia, you have to slow down. Like, people, please, when you are driving, don't just drive for yourself. Drive for other people around you who are in cars and people who are on the streets walking. Councilmember Isaiah Thomas is absolutely right to constantly beat the horse on this issue. It has always been a problem in Philadelphia, but it has gotten exponentially worse, particularly within the last year. And I don't think people really understand when they hear Councilman Thomas talk about this. I don't think it's getting through. I don't think people are hearing how dangerous it is. It's already dangerous in the middle of a pandemic. It's already dangerous in the middle of a gun violence epidemic. You basically have a 60% chance of getting away with murder in the city of Philadelphia, and you have a 60% chance of getting murdered in Philadelphia and no one knowing or no one finding out who killed you. So we're already dealing with that. You're already dealing with the crisis, the attack, the existential threat of poverty and high rates of food insecurity. Last thing that folks should have to worry about is getting hit by a car because someone is not paying attention, someone is speeding, folks have just are always in a rush. And you know, some of that rush, I kind of understand the psyche and mindset behind that rush, and we don't explore that enough. You know, particularly in places or jurisdictions where people are struggling with economic distress. And I'm not using that as an excuse because people, generally speaking, just need to slow the hell. Like I have to catch myself before, like I say something I'm not supposed to say here on family-free radio. But slow the hell down, y'all. It is dangerous. And watch where you're going. Watch how you're driving. Use your signal lights, please. Can I repeat this? Use your signal lights. Damn, use your signal lights. See people all the time. You're speeding, you're not using your signal lights. Put your phone down. Stop texting. Stop talking to people on the phone. And the reason I was saying, the point I was making before I just cut myself off there, because I think it's a very important issue. It's something I really respect Councilmember Thomas for being like the only person in council right now who's highlighting it and highlighting it constantly, like every week, and he had a recent hearing on it. You know, I kind of get it. You know, people, especially like poor folks, are always in a rush. You know, you're in a rush to get to work. You know, you're in a rush. You know, we live very, you know, a lot of folks live very far away from where they work. And then they're forced to drive, and then they get stuck in traffic, and then they have, well, then wake up early. You know, if you're in a situation like that, because you're not just putting yourself at risk, you're putting other people around, you're putting children at risk. Let me tell you how bad it is in Philadelphia as far as vehicular-based deaths and hit and runs. So in 2019, we had 90 deaths from vehicular accidents or vehicular homicides, hit and runs. Had 90 deaths. Well, 90 deaths too many. This just shouldn't be happening, right? Guess what the number was last year in 2020? 153. That's a 70% increase in just 1 year from 2019 to 2020. 153 people died from vehicular accidents, vehicular homicides, or hit and runs last year. A 70% increase from 2019. You understand how serious, how severe this is? The fact that, you know, yes, the city's got to come up with a plan for this. And it's not that hard to do. It's not that expensive to do. The fact that the city is not saying anything about it is not really, in my mind, not giving Councilmember Thomas and others and the victims of families, the victims themselves, because then a lot of people are getting hurt. I didn't even provide the data. I don't see the data yet, and maybe I need to touch base with Councilmember Thomas about this. I don't even see the data of people who get hurt, because, you know, you have people who get killed, just like with gun violence, right? You know, you had last year, you had like nearly 3,500 people shot in the city of Philadelphia. So, you know, you have a lot of people who don't get killed, but they get like injured for life. They get paralyzed. They get maimed. That happens with cars. And so people are really, people in Philadelphia are not taking careful driving. They're not taking how serious cars are. I mean, that's one of the reasons I do not like cars. I have a car. I drive it when I need to. I don't like driving. And one of the reasons, because it's so unsafe. You just don't know what's happening because you've got fools and knuckleheads around you not paying attention. And then, you know, you end up getting killed. It's just, and I've been in a couple of accidents in my lifetime. And it's not you know, and the other issue too is a lot of people driving around without insurance. So that's an issue that has to get tackled. And so, you know, when they get in an accident, they leave the scene, which is wrong on so many levels. But, you know, that's also something that the city has to tackle. Thank the Bicycle Coalition for keeping track of these numbers. Go to bicyclecoalition.org/traffic victims, PHL, to get the latest count and also annual count since 2016 on vehicular-based deaths in Philly. We had 76 deaths in 2016. There were 11 hit and runs. Then it went up. It spiked up to 99 in 2017, and 16 hit and runs included there. Then it went up to 103 in 2018. There were 14 hit and runs included in that. Went back down to 90, and now we're at 153 deaths, fatalities from car accidents or from hit and runs in Philadelphia alone. Compare that to New York. New York had 243 people die in traffic crashes in 2020. That was their deadliest year since 2014. You're seeing spikes in traffic crashes all across the country, particularly during pandemic, because there's fewer cars on the road. So some people also are taking all that space and they're going fast. You know, it's like they're not taking their time getting to places that they need to be. And so, you know, and then y'all gonna get mad when, you know, as they start rolling out autonomous driverless vehicles and then you're out of a job, or, you know, you can't afford the autonomous. Well, it's like, maybe y'all need to slow down. Like, it's like, slow down and stop killing people. You know, but just in New York, okay, so in New York alone, you had 243 people that died in traffic crashes. But imagine, that's a city of nearly 9 million people. And so Philly almost catching up, a city of 1.6 million people almost catching up in traffic fatalities to New York City. Almost catching up to New York. Imagine. What the hell? In the DC metro area, 258 traffic deaths. That's an area of about nearly 3 million people, I think. Philly almost catching up with that. So nationwide, you had nearly 40,000 people tragically killed in traffic and highway crashes from January to November 2020. So, and that was up 7% compared to 2019. That's according to federal data from the National Safety Council. So, you know, folks were driving less because they stay at home, but the fatality rate per mile driven rose 24% last year. And then, you know, that was as the number of average miles that were driven nationwide decreased by 15%. So my hat goes off to Councilmember Thomas. Why he's alone in City Council beating that drum just baffles me. The other City Council members should be like horrified. They should be outraged. They should be demanding something from the city. Like, yo, what are y'all gonna do about this? And they also have to make sure that whatever response the city engages in, it has to be equitable. Like, don't just like jump into something or knee jerk into bad policy, like, you know, putting more speed cameras in black neighborhoods than white neighborhoods, you know, stuff of that sort, or just ticketing more black. But, you know, but on that same note, I will say this, and some people might, you know, knock me for saying it, but I'm going to say it. Like, black people, y'all got to slow down. Because you know who you are. Like, y'all don't know how to slow down. Slow down. Like, because I saw the data, like in the DC metro area, vast majority of vehicle or traffic fatalities were in Prince George's County. Vast majority. That's a county that's 70% black. Like, slow down, black people. like, where are you going? And so, yeah, come on. Like, let's just, real talk on that. Like, slow down and pay attention. And put the phones down. Put the phones down. Like, there's absolutely we gotta put the phones down. Like, stop texting. So who are you talking to? You know, I see like brothers and sisters on the phones, like passionately having a conversation, an argument with folks. Why are they driving? Why are they driving like 1-2 tons of metal? And then, you know, end up hitting someone. Like, cut it out. Cut it out. Really, seriously. So anyway, 215. So I thank you for doing that. If Councilmember Thomas happens to be listening, or his staff, thank you for beating the drum on that, because it's bad. It's really bad. I mean, you thought gun violence, but yeah, gun violence is bad too, and that's right up there with that. 215. So yeah, especially if you have a family member, or if you yourself does not know how to slow down, like, tell yourself, hey, you know what? Damn, I need to slow down. Tell your family member. Because if you know you have a family member and y'all laughing with that family member having a reputation for speeding all over the place, then you're just as culpable. Really, you are. You're just as culpable, especially if that family member gets in an accident, or God forbid a hit and run, or God forbid kill somebody, or kill someone's child. Like, you just as culpable. It's not funny. It's not funny. Just like when we talk about trash in Philly, it's not funny. Stop laughing at stuff like this. It's not funny. It's ruining people's lives. It's killing people, ruining people's lives. And in Philly, everybody just is like, I don't know, or laughs about it. Cut that out. Like some standards, people. Like raise your standards. Step up. Raise your standards. 215, and you just slow down and look out for one another. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
How you doing, Charles?
Hey, what's happening?
If you want to talk about the traffic and what's going on, the problem it is that we are a city in chaos because our city council has failed us. They are rated a F, because of we're the largest, poorest city, and we're in chaos, not counting COVID. This is without COVID. We're at the bottom. Right now, they keep saying we're 26% unemployment when we're actually, for black people, it's near 47, to be honest with you. People don't have driver's license. People don't have insurance. People are just trying to survive right now. I talk to the young people around here. They don't have no driver's license. They don't have no insurance. They're just trying to survive. They don't have the upbringing that me and you have.
I understand that, but they shouldn't be driving.
You can say that.
Hands down, you shouldn't be driving that. If you ain't got a driver's license, you don't have insurance, like you shouldn't be driving, fam.
Yeah, but
like
you say that all you want. That's not reality. Okay.
Well, but it has to be reality, Maurice. No. Zero tolerance on that. Did you hear what I just said, Maurice? We had a 70% increase in the number of people in Philadelphia, mostly poor people at that, mostly black people at that, who died from irresponsible people on the roads. If you don't have a driver's license, you don't have car insurance, then do not drive.
City council.
Full stop. Okay, well that is an issue. I agree with you. That is an issue, but I'm not giving people excuses on that. No, I'm not giving people excuses on that. Yes, you are right. It's a both and. People need to keep their butts off the road if they do not have a license, and if you have a child that you know is going around joyriding like that, you're just as responsible. We need to step up on our standards as a community when we see people doing wrong stuff. Full stop. We need to cut this out. We keep giving each other like too much latitude and excuses on very simple things that are endangering us. Cut it out. That's the same. I mean, so yes, I agree with you. City council must explore this issue of access to driver's license, access to driver's insurance, things of that sort. I absolutely agree with you. And funding and just the overall problem of poverty. And they are getting the F on that. The whole city council, the mayor, everyone. I agree with you on that. But I'm not going to give these people, Maurice, I'm not. People out here killing people when they're not joyriding and speeding up and everything and looking at their phones. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And you shouldn't do it either. It's irresponsible.
Charles, are we having a two-way conversation or you just...
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you've been talking for 2 minutes but nonstop.
All right, well, I'm giving you time. Go ahead, bro.
I understand your concern, but your concern is accurate. But what I'm trying to tell you, I'm in the streets in reality. I don't live in Washington on the roads of gold. I don't live there. I live here.
I'm up there. I grew up through it too, and I'm up there. I'm through it all the time too. I see it. I see it happening. I don't let people know where I am all the time on a regular basis, but I see stuff happening. I see what people are doing, and I see how people are driving. Cut it out.
The point I'm trying to get to is city council is a waste of time, man. You heard what the people that spoke today, what were they speaking about? Some Women's Day. That might be important, but we got more important issues right now with this city instead of that.
Hey, Maurice, you should sign up for public comment. No, seriously, you should sign up for public comment.
Why would I do that? Why would I do that when I can't speak my mind?
Got a lot to say.
You kneecap when you speak. You only can speak to certain issues. If I wanted to address a certain councilman or councilwoman, I'll be pushed off the stage. You know that.
But no, I don't know that. And I think if you can keep your I mean, yeah, they have a format and they keep it to 3 minutes, but you should do it. I mean, you're here. I think you're valuable. Your voice is valuable here. Oh, go ahead. What'd you say now?
If you don't have the numbers that they want to talk about, they don't want to hear you. I've seen it done when people try to adjust. We done had a series of murders just last night, and they haven't spoke on nothing. They didn't even speak on it.
Yeah.
You know
but I think that there's, I think it.
In city council, when you can say something, it could be a small section. I won't give like a half an hour for people want to talk about current events that's going on. They already got that thing pre-registered with going to say. They already got their votes.
Yeah, but that, you know what? Why, Maurice? Because like people, I think we as a community have not yet figured out how to leverage it to our interest. And I think once we start figuring that out, I think that's a code that can easily be cracked. I really do. I genuinely do. That's one of those. I'm not saying it's the only way to get through to council, but it is one way, and it is there. And people need to start like capitalizing on it or maximizing its use. I don't think we've done that yet. So, Maurice, I gotta let you go because I gotta take Mary out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Mary?
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Mary.
Yes, I agree with you that we need to stop making excuses. There are too many people out here without driver's license, without insurance, and there should be some kind of reporting system from the insurance companies when these people drop their insurance, because you know they only need it to like renew their tags, and once you know that's done, they drop their insurance, and nobody's checking on that. So there needs to be some kind of reporting system.
Yeah.
Not only that, you know, everybody's getting ready to get these big checks. Now, what happened with the last big checks? People went out and bought cars.
Right.
Now we have a ton of abandoned cars all over this city. Somebody needs to talk to Mayor Street and find out what he did to get the millions of abandoned cars off of these streets. All right, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That's another issue too. That goes back to that trash issue. You know that, and that's what Philadelphia police could be doing. You know, instead of arresting people outside the art museum for soliciting photos. Like I mean, I understand. You know, you want to make things comfortable for people who are coming from outside the city. You want to make Philly a comfortable experience for them, but it doesn't make much sense. You're trying to protect a $600 million tourism industry if you can't pick up trash off the streets, you can't get rid of the abandoned vehicles, you're still giving people a 60% chance to get away with murder. I'm just saying priorities.
Yeah,
it's priorities.
It's a real.
I mean, your priority is not having 12 cops like come down on one brother who, you know, yeah, he shouldn't be out there trying to solicit. I mean, it's against the law to solicit photos from people out front of the art museum or any sort of like public property like that. I get it, but it's not. That wasn't. All they had to do was just like, okay, fine them and let them go and just say, hey, you can't do that, and just let them walk off. But there's 99 other things that Philadelphia police could be doing. But no, thank you, Ms. Mary. Mary, you still there? Okay. She was. I think she was. She had made her point. She made a very good point too. But she's absolutely right. I mean, that citywide tracking mechanism is needed, and just need. I'm sorry, Maurice. I'm just not going to give folks excuses. I mean, we need to say, hey, listen, you know what? This is wrong. If you don't have a license, you don't have insurance, you shouldn't be out on the road. Use SEPTA. That's what SEPTA is for. I didn't drive the whole entire time I lived in Philadelphia. I did not drive before I went to college. I didn't start driving until like a year after I went into college, when I'm in DC in college, and I just felt like at that time the metro system in DC was not as expansive as SEPTA. And I was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna have to drive, and I didn't want to. That was a long time ago. So it's like, take SEPTA. That's what it's there for. Take SEPTA. You know. So George out of Center City is calling in for a reality check. George.
This morning, Charles.
What's happening?
The funny thing about it, his colleagues, Isaiah's colleagues didn't even have enough decency to tell him, yo, man, you can't put this in. You can't say things like it's petty or something, to stop somebody for registration, this, that. It's already, each and every time they figure out a way to try to take the rights of the police, just remember, all this killing you have, like they don't want you to stop them with tinted windows and all that there. That's the law. It says that you're not allowed to have tinted windows unless you have a prescription and a doctor's thing to say. 90% of the cars that's riding around with tinted windows have been involved in some type of criminal activity or on the way. It's like, it's crazy, and you can't stop them. And you know what? Police ain't trying to stop them because now they got an excuse to do less. They say, wait a minute, we can't stop and frisk them. We can't stop them without probable cause. Now Isaiah's saying is that they shouldn't even stop him. First of all, he shouldn't even be on that because that's not even a city issue. Why he put a resolution or whatever he put in is premature because he has nothing whatsoever. It's a state issue, period. You know, so
it's a good point.
You know,
it's a good point. Yeah. So I mean, like, what are the? That's a very good point, George. I appreciate that because it's you're absolutely right. So it's like we have to start asking questions of the state representatives, state legislators, and particularly since and you made this point before, they're in control of they're in control of funneling state transportation funds to the city. It's like, what are y'all doing? Y'all sleeping?
But Charles,
they're sleeping at the wheel on that.
But they're not only sleeping at the wheel. The state, they don't have nothing to do. If you notice, they don't have nothing to do. They all went up there to Broad and Alany last week, right? Because the mayor told all his flunkies to be there, and they were there. Get your butts there, rally around the police commissioner, and when she speaks, you cheer. Plain and simple as that. And they did it. They followed orders. Do what your boss tell you to do, and that's what they did. But the point is that they're the ones who do all the type of things with legislation and all that there. You have 62 cameras at Broad and Alany up in that immediate section there, and they didn't do anything until they start hearing people talk about it on URD. Remember, 3610, they hired people just to listen to talk radio, okay? They listen to what's going on in the community so they can either investigate it or they can follow up on stories. That's what they do because of so much going on with social media. They got to legally go. So what's the best way? Listen to the talk shows. Listen to what's going on in your city and all that. But you got all them council people that everybody keep kissing up and protecting, them state representatives who's getting all that money to do nothing. And remember, councils are part-time jobs. They get $135,000 plus the other jobs that they do. You know they all got other, not all, but a few of them got pretty much hefty salary other jobs, which is legal. One other thing before I go, Charles. I
mean, that's the thing about the SEPTA Mass Transit Center. I mean, that has something to do with, they were able to, in Center City, right? They were able to locate the man that had raped the 55-year-old woman in the Macy's bathroom.
Absolutely.
I mean, within 24 hours, down to his address. They were able to locate this.
That's what I've been saying all along, Charles. Anything they want to stop or find out, they can. They don't have an incentive, and they're not going to do it. But people don't. Now they're beginning to believe and hear what I'm saying.
Right.
Until these suckers, not suckers, let me stop saying that, to these cowards, who sit up there and play with the Bible all the time and play like they're holier than thou, go sit down with Mr. McNesby and the mayor and try to make peace and say, look, as men, let's try to, resolve this so this killing can stop and the police can go back to doing what they're doing. And then you hear these idiots talking about, well, they took an oath. They must do, man, please, be for real. A lot of people, it sounds real sickening when people talk about what they should do and what they do is two different things, Charles. And you know it. Every time you come into the city and you ride around, Charles, you see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you're the one person who grew up here, left here, come back here, and can see the difference. It's always these poverty pimps and these death hustlers who gets all the benefits. And the benefits was proven when the mayor told them all to be up there. Not all the death hustlers was there. A few of them didn't show. But they know who they are. And if need be, we can have a roll call. Anytime they want to have a roll call, I'll be more than glad to do a freedom of information, get all the money that they receive, and we'll talk about how they spent it.
George, I got to let you go, though, but some good points, so we'll continue to talk about them because I got to go on to Steve out of Germantown. Thanks for calling, though, George. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you making that point. I'm going to catch up with these state legislators on transportation funding and are they paying attention to the number of people dying in their districts on the roads. Let me go to Steve out of Germantown, who's calling in for a reality check. Steve?
Good afternoon, Charles. Hey, Charles, I'm going to make this real quick, man. Listen, man, the tinted windows in the city around, with these young guys driving around with the tinted windows, man, that's a probable cause to be stopped and frisked, man. I mean, why you hiding? Just come on.
Once you hiding, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing too. A lot of these folks. Come on, y'all. It's real talk. Real talk. I mean, driving around or you're walking around and you smelling weed, coming out, or whether it's being vaped or whatever, out of people's windows while they're driving. That's wrong. What's wrong?
That's
Like,
all I got,
cut it out,
Charles,
people.
brother.
You're right, Steve.
Okay, bro. That's all I got.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, no, it's a good bit that you got. I appreciate you bringing it up. Like, I mean, that's like, what you hiding? Let's go. I mean, well, some people like tinted windows for, especially when it's hot outside and there's a lot of sunlight. It does keep it nice and shaded in the car. Let me go to Derek out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Derek.
Good afternoon, Charles. Love, peace, blessing, and prosperity.
Hey, good afternoon.
Charles, I know that we have to be responsible for our children, and you got some adults that's out here acting childish, that's doing some of the things that the young folks are doing, right? That being said, though, Charles, but I don't think that the elderly people in the city should have to be tormented and suffer also, because Philadelphia being the poorest, richest city, Philadelphia has so much crime and corruption. What about the elderly people? Don't they deserve of the city council and the police commissioner, the mayor? Don't they deserve to have some type of security in the city? It's like right now, these young guys are doing a lot of things because they can get away with it. There's nobody who seems to be minding the store, Charles. So we just can't, we could toss it all around, but at the end of the day, what about the senior citizens who aren't participating in much but trying to have the last few years of their life in peace and security?
Right. You're right.
So, Charles, my point that I'm trying to make is that regardless of what these young people are doing, it don't seem to be any law and order in Philly.
It doesn't. Yeah, that there is that. I mean, in the numbers, I mean, if it's not the personal experiences or the anecdotal evidence that people give on a program like this or throughout this station, is definitely the numbers show it. That's just that has to be addressed. So it has to be addressed in some kind of urgent and substantive way. It's the same thing like with, go ahead, Derek.
And Charles, I think that when it comes to commerce, it starts with those who are in position. When it comes down to have a problem on your block or to have a problem in your house, you might contain that to some degree. But when it's all over the city, that's commerce. That's commonwealth.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. No, thank you, Derek. So Derek's absolutely right. I mean, you set the standard first you set the standard with the governance, and the governance or the people who are in governance have to set the tone. And you set the tone with, being able to get the simple things right. So, it kind of goes back to the points that Councilmember Dom and Councilmember O were making about, they weren't going to vote on, I think it was bill number 210121, authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the Grants Revenue Fund, basically to the city to basically, more funding for various pandemic emergency city services. But they were like, we're not going to give the city any more money. We're not going to vote or authorize to send the city any more money, to send them a message that they've got to do better as far as planning, as far as governance. These are very simple things, So to their point, back to their point about like vaccine distribution, every major city knows that at some point in the future, you're going to have a public health crisis. You're going to have an emergency or some sort of outbreak or epidemic or even a pandemic. Everyone knew that there was going to be a pandemic. That's always, we've had pandemics before. That's just the reality of civilization. But the extent of that pandemic or the impact of that pandemic is contingent upon your planning for it. So you can actually contain or control as best you can the number of people getting infected or dying from a pandemic or from some sort of outbreak if you plan for it. And so all cities are supposed to be planning for emergencies, for continuity of operations, for public health emergencies. Like they're supposed to have, and I know this because I worked for a big city, and this is one of the things I had to do. And, you always prepare. You always, you have people, doing the very hard work, the very laborious work and unsexy work of writing out or scripting out those plans. Okay, well, this is how we're going to have this agency respond, how these other multiple agencies are going to partner with them. Clearly, in this respect, Philadelphia, and you can't plan for everything, and you can't anticipate everything. I mean, you can't look into a crystal ball, but you do the best that you can based on data and based on human history, based on previous events. Like, because we've been in these situations. We had a pandemic before, right? That killed millions of people worldwide. So we know we've been here before. So you plan that and you hire people to do that for you. Clearly, in this particular case, apparently, the city of Philadelphia did not do that. It's not good at emergency planning or emergency preparedness. And Philadelphia is not the only one. Like, there's all kinds of cities and states that just don't do that. So it's the same thing as far as public safety is concerned and other issues, protecting people and being, because especially when you're in times of crisis or an emergency, planning better collaboration, better coordination. The city of Philadelphia is just bad at it. And so what's going to need to happen is next step, especially like, for example, after the pandemic, or also after like this violence lets up and gives us a quiet period. One, there's going to have to be some probing into why the city is not planning for these types of eventualities. That's one. And then two, like, write a plan. Like, write this stuff out. Hire people to do this. Or, you're Eds and Med City. People in Philly or public officials in Philly love to brag about, we're Eds and Med City. We are Eds and Med City. Like, well, it's like, use the Eds and Meds. you got like these are some of like the finest research and academic institutions in the world. People from all over the world trying to go to Penn and Drexel and Temple and other schools in Villanova. I mean, use their world. I mean, they're award-winning research centers, places where academics are putting out like almost daily all sorts of research on how to fix the world's problems. Like, use that. And they're right there. They're living in Philly, living and working in Philadelphia. So use that. They're writing stuff for everyone else. So why not use it, leverage it, capitalize it for Philly? It's just so, like, I don't understand. I don't get it. It's so simple. Let me go to Rod out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Rod?
Hey, Charles. I haven't listened to much of the program this week, but just hearing a little piece, I've been in about half an hour. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia's parochial nature just continues with the nepotism and the favoritism.
It hurts.
I see it all the way down to the committee person, the ward leaders. Everybody's just trying to aspire to get theirs. It's not so black consciousness that we had back in the day. The best thing that happened with Trump being elected was it reinstituted the common enemy. It made us more laser focused on what we needed to do.
Right.
Because I remember back with the Model Cities program and the CETA programs, and once those programs hit, I liken it to a baby crying, and the mother puts the breast in the mouth, the baby sucks and goes to sleep. That's what I think happened to black people in the United States for quite a while. So fortunately, we woke up, but I hope we don't follow the same pattern of getting complacent again, because when I came to strategy sessions, I know the Republicans are what they're doing. They act like the enemy, even though politically correct is to say loyal opposition. But they're all out into an existential crisis.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is,
you're right.
A couple of things. The last two things. I'm thinking of their strategies with Cuomo messing up in New York. They can get a Republican governor. Then when Trump gets convicted, he can get pardoned again for state crimes. So
Democrats better be prepared up there in New York. I mean, I was having this conversation recently with a colleague. And he's like, well, Republicans haven't won anything in 30 years. I'm like, hey, let me tell you, Republicans are big believers in that age-old maxim, where there is a will, there is a way. Republicans will find a way to get it done.
They played a long game.
They played a long game well.
In the 90s, I saw a book written in 1980, so it's a paperback book in somebody's library shelf. It said How the Conservatives Will Take Back the Country, written in 1980. Newt Gingrich came in, Reagan came in, and they did it. They did exactly what they plotted to do.
Yeah, they did. Because
last thing, go ahead.
Fall asleep. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Rod.
No. I had just one other subject. So
Sure,
finish
sure.
on that one, then I'll say what I had to say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've been hit 3 times by cars on a bike. I was in a bike lane. Another time, it was a T Street, and I was going down Ridge Avenue, and the guy decided to make a left turn, and he just slammed me up underneath a car. And another time, I was on the side. I was waiting for a red light to change, and a car ran the red light while turning, and another one avoiding them. They ended up hitting me and knocking me on the sidewalk. So
Thank goodness
this
you're
madness
still alive.
about-
You're still living to tell it, brother. I really thank
Man, I
goodness
praise
for that.
God, for real. I was hospitalized and with fractures and, all of that. But, it's guardian angels. But, yes, this madness out here in the streets is no civility, man, no character. Well, not none, but we got a battle. That's all. That's all. I don't
We got a
know.
war. This is a war.
It is a war for our living, for our souls. And another time I'll call you because I've been tracking the environmental justice things around the country, and there's some things cropping up that I'm sure you're likely aware of, but just want to bring them to the fore. And the last thing, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, real quick, Rod, go ahead.
Puerto Rico is trying to get statehood, and
Yeah.
McConnell and them are afraid that they'll just become 2 Republican senators and 4 Republican congressmen. So I just heard on NPR today the guy said there'll likely be a swing state because there's a lot of conservatives down there. So I just wanted to
I mean,
all
that's the Latino population in general. Yeah, exactly. So, no, you're right. Because you had the D.C. statehood and Puerto Rico statehood before both those issues before the Congress. But you're absolutely right as far as, and Raphael Suleiman on Facebook Live agrees with you, Rod. Yes, the parochialism and nepotism in Philly are bringing the city down. Now we have to deal with the John Doherty fiasco, another corrupt city figure. And Raphael Suleiman also saying Philly has too many ghetto black people. This is Raphael Suleiman saying this. They're all coming from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York City. They know they can't conduct rampant lawlessness there. They will go to Rikers with the quickness. They're all coming here and wreaking havoc because they don't govern well here. The word is out. These are the same people in the hoods of New York City, but New York City is able to keep them in check. That's right. New York City does keep them in check. And a lot of stuff Giuliani started, in fact, when he was mayor. Philly obviously cannot do it. It's a very good point from Raphael. Also, Helen Ubinas in the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote a fantastic piece that I think folks should read when they get a chance. This came out a couple of days ago as an opinion piece. Philly's gun violence prevention community needs a reckoning of its own. And she was calling folks out, like saying, and she was profiling the young brother we've had on here a couple of times a while back, John Solomon, of Endangered Kind, nonprofit young brother who I think he's about 24, and he's a victim of gun violence, but he's also been a perpetrator of gun violence, spent some time for that. And so when they had the press conference at the Olney Mass Transit Center, he wasn't there. He wasn't invited. And she was saying he hadn't been invited. He told me when I called to catch up, even though his presence would have added a lot to a conversation about why young people pick up guns and what it might take to put them down. I'm quoting from Ubinas. His uncle was the only reason he was in that room in 2016. This was a previous meeting, he recalled. And so John Solomon's saying here, quote, "It was so mind-blowing to me that I was the only young person in those rooms when I knew it was so important for other young people to have some type of presence in there." And John Solomon's talked about that before on this program. It's changing now, but there's still pushback. There's a big cultural gap between young leaders in the city and high-risk youth and the young adults in the violence prevention community. He's absolutely right. But that cliquishness, that clubbishness that has been wrecking Philly for years, since I was like in the womb, it's killing. It kills Philly. I've talked about that time and time again. I will continue to talk about it. Y'all have got to cut that out. Particularly the city's black political and advocacy community leadership class does that a lot. And you may think that it's not a problem, and you may think that it's cute, or you may think that it's necessary. And it's one of the reasons why the city is dysfunctional and can't, it can't manage issues like equitable vaccine distribution, or can't properly or adequately respond to a gun violence crisis, or can't do a number of other things, And it's also one of the reasons why you hear so much outrage. You hear so much rage, and understandable, justifiable rage from folks who call into this station or call into programs like this or feel you're not doing anything. Like, people have smelled that out, and they're tired of it. They're frustrated, particularly people who aren't a part of the Jack and Jillery that's such a permanent fixture in the way Philadelphia is. Like, you guys are going to have to really sort of figure this out, because you can't, on one hand, talk about like, okay, well, we want to uplift the entire black community, but then, you're playing exclusionary games with young brothers who are doing things or trying to do things like John Solomon. Like, you cannot have these advocacy groups, these anti-violence groups, or create committees tackling issues like violence and have no young people present or figuring out a leadership role for them to play. I'm not saying for them to be interns or the volunteers or the help. No, they need to play. You need to figure out and groom them as leaders. And that's just killing Philly. Didn't have a chance to go into national news, but the national news is very important. It is very relevant. We go through that every day here on Reality Check. The U.S. Capitol Police, there is breaking news out of Washington. The U.S. Capitol Police has asked the National, I knew this was going to happen, so it's not breaking to me, but the Capitol Police is asking the National Guard to stay for 2 more months in their deployment at the U.S. Capitol. You have close to 6,000 troops that have been deployed in the nation's capital. Most of those troops around the U.S. Capitol, but they're in other places around the city as well. So Lieutenant General Russell Honoré, if you remember him from Hurricane Katrina, from that response, he did the best that he could during Hurricane Katrina. Like, without General Honoré, without that brother, like, it could have been a lot worse in New Orleans. But he is now head of the D.C. National Guard. He's doing he's trying to do his work again. They're keeping the nation's capital protected from terrorists. I'm going to stop calling them white supremacists. They're terrorists. So this is just at the same level as Al Qaeda or ISIS. They're terrorists. Let's start kind of practicing that. But there have been threats. There have been emergency threats, credible threats that were reported by law enforcement, federal, local, regional law enforcement in the nation's capital. The nation's capital is on high alert, has been on high alert for some time. I've noticed a lot of military action, not just on land either, but I've noticed a lot of air traffic. So, because there is an Andrews Air Force Base, and a lot of air traffic, a lot of military air traffic in recent weeks. It's always air traffic, military air traffic, especially in and around Andrews Air Force Base, but it's been particularly pronounced to the point where a lot of people are noticing. So, and there's concern about terrorists attacking the nation's capital, domestic terrorists, that is. So that's something that we're keeping a very close eye on. While I got a quick minute here, the House last night did pass the For the People's Act, H.R. 1, House Resolution 1, which is to expand and strengthen voting rights. There's also H.R. 4, the Voting Rights Advancement Act, also called the John Lewis Act. That's something that's pending. One black member of Congress was the only Democrat to vote against H.R. 1, Benny Thompson out of Mississippi. So I think he doesn't notice that people, that he thinks that people didn't notice that. I noticed it, and I've been reaching out to his office and waiting for comment. But he's the only black congressman, Democrat in Mississippi, as racist as that state is, and he voted against voting rights last night. And he was the only Democrat to vote against it. But anyway, that's very important. We need to keep a very close eye on that. Hashtag Voting Rights Threat Report. We are doing some work with All Voting is Local to spread the word about the threat against voting rights. I'll make this last statement. Voting rights is the most important issue right now. So everything else is secondary, because you can't get police reform. You can't get criminal justice reform. You can't get environmental justice. You can't get reparations if you can't vote. Full stop. Okay, it's as simple as that. So we got to get this voting rights piece correct. And I'm watching. Thankfully, WURD is on it. But I'm seeing a lot of other black media out there. They just it's like the voting rights nuclear attack is not registering. They're not even reporting on it. Folks are going to have to step up in the community. We need to get the defense up for voting rights. because it's that real. There's an all-out nuclear attack on voting rights right now, and I'm not playing. I'm not saying that to be alarmist or exaggerate. It's that real. It's happening. It's happening in Washington, and it's happening in every state, nearly every state capital across the country. Okay, that wraps this Thursday edition of Reality Check and City Council Lineup Live. I'm Charles Ellison. We're going into the source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That is coming up next. Stay tuned in. Philly and everyone else beyond, I want you to stay sharp, stay smart. Please stay safe. I'm into the weekend now, so I won't see you until, well, God willing, I won't see you until Monday, 10 a.m. sharp. It's been fantastic talking to you all. It's been an honor.